In that grief one.
Going slow mo.
He's got me talking that grief tongue.
Going slow mo.
He's got me clocking the way.
It's the Miami Night Show.
Hey, yeah.
Slow mo.
He's got me walking that grief one.
Going slow mo.
He's got me talking that grief tongue.
Going slow mo.
He's got me clocking the way.
What up, tribe? It's Miami Night Show, Master Grief Coach. Welcome to the Miami Night Show. You got me walking that grief walk. It's time for Grief Talk, y'all.
I talk about things you think about.
It's Miami Night Show, Master Grief Coach.
Welcome back, Grief Nation listeners, to It's the Miami Night Show, Grief Talk. It's Friday, June 12th, 2020, and it's a very special day. Help me to welcome compiler Ashley K. Pittman in her collaboration with Meet the Authors with Carissa Razonia, Carita Fly, Datarsha Davis, Deidreana Williams, Janelle Jones, and Shirley Elise. So let's dive into this amazing 89-page story share of Don't Struggle in Silence. I am a V.I.C.T.O.R, an authorship compilation of sharing your story after pregnancy loss opens the door to healing. This Amazon ebook and Barnes & Noble dropped on May 20, 2020. And now It's the Miami Night Show is a part of the virtual book tour campaign in support of my sisters along their grief journeys. Let's welcome them.
Hi, my name is Ashley K. Pittman, and I am the CEO and founder of DSIS Publishing, and I'm also the compiler of the book collaboration, Don't Struggle in Silence, I Am a V.I.C.T.O.R.
And today on the show, again, I'm welcoming back Ashley K. Pittman with Don't Struggle in Silence. How are you, Ashley?
Hi, Miami. I'm well. Thank you. This past December was my 10th anniversary of losing my son and daughter, twin babies. I lost them early to preterm labor at 7 months pregnant. So going through a trauma like that definitely caused a lot of, I want to say, new births. And when I say new births, it caused me to take my grief healing to write, to be able to start healing, just to get my emotions out and just kind of work through some things. So that became a book, which launched last March 1919. And now I am actually starting a collaboration. And this collaboration consists of 7 amazing women that also tell their story of pregnancy loss and healing.
Hi, Grief Nation listeners. My name is Carissa Razonia. I'm your podcast guest for today. It's the Miami Night Show, Grief Talk. My journey actually began 25 years ago with the loss of my first child, my son, Anthony. I was 19 and a half weeks pregnant when I went into preterm labor. And I had a second late-term birth with my daughter, Haley, in 96. And I was almost 22 weeks along. And it's been a very long journey to get to this place where I could write about it and celebrate them in the way that I have in my chapter and my portion of the book.
Wow. So how did you go from being a griever to actually just becoming a survivor? What was that? What did that journey look like for you?
It was long and arduous. Let me just say that. Honestly, I still have the ashes of my children. My now ex-husband bought these beautiful porcelain hearts, their music boxes, and had their names engraved on the top. And so I haven't been able to necessarily let them go. They're not, I didn't really want to have them away from me even after all of this time, but being able to have them close, along with them being in my heart, to just have them in physical proximity, honestly has helped. And I had 2 subsequent successful pregnancies.
Mm-hmm.
I have a 21-year-old son and a 16-year-old daughter, and having them acknowledge their older siblings has really been healing for me.
Wow.
Not just having those children, but having them acknowledge and recognize and remember their own siblings who they never met.
Right.
That has been extremely healing and cathartic for me. And then writing and getting their blessing to write about it has also been quite remarkable.
Can you share with us your social media outlets so there's others that can reach out to you?
Yes, I am on Twitter. It's You Be the Queen, at You Be the Queen on Twitter. I'm on Instagram. It's Be the Queen CLR, because I think women are queens. We are all queen of our own dynasty. And and Facebook, actually, I'm on Facebook. It's Caressabelle Razonia on Facebook. And I am open to any connection that individuals want to make with me with regard to dealing with their own losses and grief.
Hi, I'm Carita Fly, one of the authors of Don't Struggle in Silence. At 23, I lost my first child at 14 weeks, and at 25, I lost my second child at 12 weeks.
I'm sorry to hear about that.
Thank you.
Please tell us a little bit about going through both of those and how that kind of shifted your belief of just having children.
Sure. My first loss was very, I know every child loss is unexpected. However, I had an appointment, a prenatal appointment that Tuesday evening, about 6 p.m. Everything was perfect. Heartbeat was great. I had no complaints. But less than 24 hours later, I would be being rushed to the ER, bleeding uncontrollably, just to get there and find out that I had lost a child at some point. And for me, that was very difficult to accept, mainly because, like I said, less than 24 hours before, everything was perfect. I had an ultrasound. There was no indication that anything was wrong at any point. And this was also 3 days before my college graduation. So that was very hard for me to kind of process all that at once. And it was my first pregnancy and everything. So you don't go into it thinking that you're going to lose your child, especially at such a young age, because we often tie in child loss or complications with being older.
Right.
And so with my second loss, that one was also very traumatic in its own way. I was 12 weeks. Saturday evening, I went to the emergency room. Again, they were like, oh, the baby heart rate looks great. However, the fetus was already coming out of my uterus. And at 12 weeks, of course, there was nothing they could do about that. So the unfortunate part was they wanted me to go home and let the baby pass naturally, which is very difficult for me because you're still pregnant, yes. However, you're waiting at any moment to release a fetus that is no longer living. Yeah. And that was, again, a whole different set of trauma that I had never thought that I would face in my life. And the thing about that, the next day, that Sunday morning, my boyfriend was telling me he didn't feel well, his chest is hurting. I was like, it's probably just, that grief setting in. This is our second child that we're losing. I'm sure that's what it is. But, we went to the ER anyway. I'm in pain, preparing to lose this child. But, I was like, okay, you have a life that we have to take care of as well. Yeah. And we got to the ER. Believe it or not, his heart rate was 29, 29 beats per minute. So, of course, they decided we have to admit you to the cardiac unit right away. Well, minutes before that happened, I felt the pressure of the fetus about to come out. Standing in the hospital, about to get on the elevator. So I run to the bathroom. Sure enough, the fetus comes out into the toilet. And a lot of people don't realize that at 12 weeks, it's actually a fully developed fetus. It's very small, but it definitely looks like a baby. So I'm looking at this fetus in the toilet, and I'm trying to figure out, what do I do at this point? Do I call the doctors? Do I call a nurse? Do I just act like nothing happened and get back to his side while he's being admitted? One of the hardest decisions I've ever had to make. Yeah. So I literally just flushed the toilet, pulled myself together, left out the bathroom, went back to his side. He's like, is everything okay? Yep, I'm fine. I just had to throw up. I'm okay. So we get up to the room where he's admitted. And again, I start bleeding uncontrollably. So now at this point, I have to tell the truth about what just happened 5 minutes ago, because now I need help. The nurses came in, they asked me, did I want to go back to the ER? I was like, no, is there something you guys can do for me up here? Can you just help me get cleaned up? I don't want to leave him.
Yeah.
So they did. They helped me stop the bleeding, get cleaned up, everything, pulled it together. And I went back to tending to him. And with that, I feel like the hardest part about that was I couldn't really acknowledge that I had lost that child until sometime later. When he was well, he had been discharged from the hospital and everything, and I had time to process what that those days looked like for me. So I think with both my losses, it wasn't until much later that I actually went through the grieving process and was able to kind of focus on what had happened, because both losses I feel like were tied to other major events that I had to focus on at the time. And so that was really big for me, just kind of getting to a point in my life where it wasn't until months after the second loss that I really began my journey of healing and kind of working through what I had experienced over the last 2 years with those losses.
Thank you so much for sharing that. So how can we reach you? Share your social media with us.
Sure. My Instagram is Carrita, Carrita, Lenice, Leniece. I also have a separate Instagram for my nonprofit organization, Raising Little Miracles. And that is for my son that I eventually had, was a 26-weeker. He was in the NICU for 4 months. So I founded a nonprofit organization for other NICU families to provide support for them. So that is at Raising Little Miracles on Instagram as well.
My name is Deidreana Hayes. I am a co-author with the Don't Struggle in Silence project. My journey actually began exactly about a year ago. I was 5 months pregnant, right around 24 weeks gestation. As any new mom, I was really excited to be pregnant. I had just recently gotten engaged, moved from New York to Atlanta. So everything was new. I was in such a new season and excited for everything that it was going to bring. And everything was going fine. It was a very normal pregnancy until it wasn't, honestly. I was actually doing an Instagram Live Bible study when I began to contract, and I assumed that they were just Braxton Hicks contractions. Yeah. And I remember calling my girlfriend who had just had a son, and she was like, they're probably Braxton Hicks, but if they continue, you should call a nurse. I called my mother, mom knows best, and she's like, you need to go ahead and call your nurse. But in my mind and everything that I've known to grow up, Black women are strong. And so I was like, this is pain. Motherhood is supposed to have a level of pain. I'm fine. I'm not going to go crying to a doctor. And I waited, unfortunately, without knowing that I was actually dilating. We went to the hospital and I found out I was dilating 3 centimeters. Fast forward, that hospital that had actually been servicing me the entire pregnancy did not even have an L&D center at all, nor did they have NICU. We had to advocate for our own transfer to the nearest hospital that did have the equipment to be able to support us.
Wow.
We got there. I, got a cerclage, which allowed me to hold the baby, but within 24 hours, unfortunately, my son had passed, and I immediately had to be induced. And even in being induced, I actually had to experience 2 epidurals in less than 48 hours, which was a very painful and scary experience. I then also found out in the middle of me being induced that I was actually allergic to all of the medicine that they use for inducing labor. I went into an anaphylactic reaction.
Wow.
And my throat began to close. I began to complain to the nurses, who told me that everything was fine and that this was normal, and that I was probably shaking because of my anxiety. And eventually, thank God to my now husband, who had to advocate, and whatever stereotype you want to have around men being angry or scary or whatever it is, that scared them into action, and to take me off of that medicine.
Wow.
Then which I did deliver my angel son on April 15th. It's a long story. It's so many details, and when people ask me about it, I'm just like, oh my gosh, it's a
Where do I
long
begin?
story.
Yeah, but it's your story and how you share it. I am so sorry for your loss and your family, for you and your husband, and I can just only imagine what that day was for you, what it felt like. But you got the opportunity to hold your son, I'm sure. How was that? Tell us about just being able to still love him.
Oh my gosh. The beautiful thing about my experience is that I did get to spend 48 hours with my son afterwards. And that was extremely important to my husband and I, to be able to just spend that time holding him and loving him and clinging to him. And what was really ironic, I'm very faith-based. That entire time I was like praying to God, like, let your will be done. And it was almost as if like my tears like answered a prayer, and like, you know, the Holy Spirit just came to me and just simply said, you know, it is now time for you to give back what God gave to you. And, you know, as like crazy as that may sound, in the midst of holding your deceased child, it was like, you know what, this is still a gift, and all things that we receive are gifts, and they're not ours to begin with. And I remember sitting there with my husband and actually saying to God, we surrender and we submit back to you what you have given to us.
Amen.
And that was truly like the start of our grief journey as a couple. And just really kind of navigating this new identity that we knew nothing about.
How can we reach you? So share your social media platform for us.
So I can actually be found on Instagram as DAE_Hayes, HAYES. That is like, I don't want to just say it's a personal account. I do share a lot more of like my hobbies and interests and family photos and things like that. But to be more specific, for my Angel Mom community, I have Beauty for Ashes. That's Beauty, BEAUTY, 4 FOR, Ashes, ASHES_con. That is the official Beauty for Ashes conference page. And we are actually still uploading some of the videos from last year's conference and some of the resource tools that we were able to put together. And then lastly, on Instagram, I can be found under my government name, Dadriana. That's DADRIAUNNA. Hayes, HAYES.
My name is Natasha Davis. I'm a co-author with the Don't Struggle in Silence project. Well, my journey actually started in my late 20s when I was given a diagnosis of unexplained fertility. And then I did become pregnant. And that pregnancy result was an ectopic pregnancy. So I was really, really, really just upset, because I was like, yay, I'm pregnant. And then in a blink of an eye, it was gone. And I really had no time to grieve. I had no time to wrap my mind around what was happening, because I had to be taken into surgery right then. It literally, that day I went in to have a sonogram, and they found that the pregnancy was in my tubes, and it was like, okay, well, we have to do surgery right now. So once I kind of healed from that, I became pregnant with twins, a boy and a girl. I went into labor at 25 weeks, and unfortunately, I lost my son. And in the midst of still grieving that, I became pregnant again, and I had a miscarriage. So I've had quite the experience with infant loss and pregnancy loss.
How does, in between the times that you were losing children, there was one that lived, correct? In this timetable, how long was it?
Correct. When I was pregnant with the twins, I lost the son. But I still had my daughter, who was in the NICU fighting for her life. So I was really, really, during this time, it was just a haze of confusion because I can't really grieve and breathe because I have the other twin that needs me. So I was all over the place. I referenced the movie Groundhog Day because that's what those days felt like. It felt like getting up and doing the same routine over and over and over again. Losing my son, it was just very traumatic because I couldn't understand how it could happen. When I walked into the emergency room that morning, I heard the heartbeat. I felt the movement. So when I went under for emergency surgery, when I woke up, I was well, before I went under, I assumed everything was fine because before I went, everything was fine. We heard both heartbeats. And like I said, they were just moving. So I was reassured that my babies were fine, only to wake up from surgery and realize that, no, I lost one. Well, you can reach me on Facebook at Zatarsha Davis.
And your book is also sold where?
You can find it on Amazon. The name of my book, I Made God Laugh. If you type it in, it'll pop up, and it's under the name of Robin L. Davis.
Hey, it's Janelle Jones, and I am with Meet the Authors Project with Don't Struggle in Silence. So my journey with grief, with the pregnancy loss, this was in like 1999. And I have to be honest, back then, I didn't recognize that I had to go through a process. It wasn't until I got older to go through the whole process of actually, losing a child and everything like that. So for me, as I got older and gained some wisdom, I understand that grief is very real. Really going through the process and allowing myself to go through that process and not just try to sweep it under the rug and not really deal with it. And I think that when I did that, I swept it under the rug. I never healed from it. So I start my journey by really identifying and recognize that I had a loss, that this was a major loss in my life, and really deal with it from that aspect of it. And then go through the 5 stages of grief, where, you're like shock. And for me, my grief was a little different because unfortunately, my pregnancy loss actually was a domestic violence incident. So with me, it was different because not only was I dealing with that grief of losing a child, also dealing with the grief of going through this domestic violence incident as well. And not only learning to process the grief of the child, but also learning to forgive from that moment and instance. So the process was definitely difficult, but I had to learn how to forgive, not only forgive me, but forgive my ex-husband at that time. I had to learn how to process because I ended up going through a very traumatic event. So it wasn't just, with the hospitals and things like that. That was very challenging for me, and having to go through that and understanding that, it was a part of my life, but it doesn't define who I was. And really, honestly, if I can emphasize anything, it's really healing through that grief journey, and releasing the anger that I felt, and releasing really, I was very hard on myself because the domestic violence incident wasn't just, the person hurting me. I played a role in it too. So I had to learn how to completely heal and forgive myself for that, and then move forward from there.
For anybody that's listening today, how can they reach you?
Yeah, so on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram, I am under Janelle Jones Empowers, the handle that way. That is mostly how I produce or get my information out there. I also have a website, JanelleJonesEmpowers.com, that people can go to, where, all my information is on there. The books and all that information is on there. The courses, just all about me. That's how I'm able to be reached.
My name is Shirley Elise. I'm a co-author with the Don't Struggle in Silence project. So my journey began several years back. I actually had 4 losses, but the one that I actually wrote about in the book with Ashley is the one where I had like a very unique pregnancy. And at that time, I want to say it was about 9-10 years ago, the doctors were saying I was the only woman in the whole United States who's ever had what I had. No one's ever seen it before or ever heard of it, but now I think it's more, people have actually heard about it more. But my baby was outside of my uterus, connected to my main artery down my right leg. And so for me, they were just calling doctors and specialists all around the world, different countries, because they just wanted to know, like, how do you even go about this? You know, what was the step? And so what happened was, you know, they finally came back and they just told me, you know, like, this is very new, you know, we're not familiar with it, but that they wanted to go ahead and they were like, we need to terminate this pregnancy. Now, me being who I am, of the belief that I'm from, which is Christianity, I do not believe in abortions, but I do understand at the same time that this was not, you know, an abortion. And it just took me a minute to get that concept, because it was just kind of hard, you know. You start connecting with something that you have been believing God for so long, been praying for and wanting. So for me, you know, it was just one of those things where I'm in the hospital and I'm like, everybody's like, you need to terminate this pregnancy. You're a ticking time bomb. This baby's getting bigger, you know, and eventually you're just going to bust from the inside out. And I'm just like, yeah, well, you know what? I'll do that on my own terms. So it took me several weeks before I decided to go ahead and move forward with the procedure, which is a very simple procedure. But I had to do a lot of praying. You know, I'm like, okay, God, I hear what everybody else is saying. I hear what my pastor's saying. I hear what my husband's saying. I hear what everybody's saying, but I need to know that this is something that you want me to do. And then once I got that peace and that release to do it, then I went ahead and did it. And that was very hard for me, because when the doctors told me that I needed to terminate a pregnancy, you know, in my mind, I'm thinking like, okay, we terminate roaches, we terminate mice, we don't terminate babies, you know, especially my baby. I have been praying for this baby, you know, I have been believing God for this baby. I'm like, okay, so finally, when I, you know, get the news that I am pregnant, now you're telling me I need to terminate. So that was really hard, because I had already grown attached emotionally, you know, and in my mind, it was one of those things I was always battling with, you know, how as a mother do you give permission to another human being to terminate your child, you know? So that was something that I wrestled with for a long time. But that was pretty much my journey with that situation in a nutshell. I did lose, like I said, I had lost 4 babies, but the first one, they were twins, but I hadn't even known I was pregnant until after I lost them. So that didn't really affect me too much. And then the last baby was on Father's Day, 2012. And that was a little different. It wasn't as hard as the unique situation, because this baby, again, I wasn't planning for it or anything else. It was still sad, but it wasn't as sad. The other one, you know, I had put my faith out there. I was believing God. Me and my husband were praying, you know, this is something that we knew was going to take place. And so when it did take place, and then they told us we had to terminate, I think that was more devastating than anything.
Yeah, it sounds like it. And I'm so sorry that you had to experience not only the one, but each one. And it's good to see and even listen to you be able to share your story, because there's so many women that are out there that don't have the outlet or are even brave enough to talk about this subject. Absolutely. So, you know, thank you so much. So how can my Grief Nation listeners reach out to you? What are all of your social media platforms?
I just have Facebook, and which Facebook is Boldly, Boldly, Shirley Elise. And then my Instagram is thyroid_cancer_victorious.
Hello, Grief Nation listeners. I am Ashley K. Pittman, your podcast guest today on It's Miami Night Show, Grief Talk.
Okay. Well, Grief Nation listeners, please look out for that. Go to Ashley's website and get involved. Get ready to tell your story. Hire her to be your coach in this. Doesn't necessarily have to be pertaining to pregnancy loss, but your story that you want to tell, or your book that you want to write. She's a publisher, so she writes, you know, she does it all. So definitely check her out on all her social media platforms. And what are those again?
Facebook and Instagram, Ashley K. Pittman.
Okay. And before I let you go, what has your attention, being the businesswoman that you are, the advocate, the speaker, in the community, that you would like to see change, or just something that you would like to bring further awareness to?
Miami, I was actually just doing a little bit of market research on pregnancy loss and miscarriages, and it's not a whole lot out there that's coming from someone like me per se. So I want to continue to bring the awareness that pregnancy loss exists and that we need support. We need people talking about it. We need people knowing that it's a thing that we actually go through, and it's not, she had a miscarriage, she can have more children, or she could try again, or they can try. It's not that. It's not so vague. It's hurtful, and it's a hard time to get through, regardless if you was 6 weeks pregnant or 9 months pregnant, or after birth. So I really want to just continue to bring the awareness that if you know someone that has had a loss, or someone that is going through it, or if yourself has been through it, be more sensitive to it and hear them out and check on them to make sure that they are okay. Even if they may seem like they are, they probably really aren't that much okay. So just be more sensitive to that matter, and really just be there and just listen to them if they need somebody to listen to. It's okay to talk about the baby. It's okay to talk about their birthdays. It's okay to talk about the anniversary. It's not something that we need to hide from, because it's a real thing. It's a real thing. So
And with us currently, in this pandemic right now, being socially isolated, and pregnancy loss happens all the time, day after day. Could you speak to that, as of right now, if a woman is currently going through that, and now we're home alone, or we're not doing our normal things anymore. So if this could have just occurred to someone, because life is still going on, just because there's a pandemic, everyday things are still happening. And if this was actually happening to a woman at this point in time, and we're already dealing with so much, what would you say to her?
I want to say, first, you're a mother no matter what. And then I also want to say to you, if you're dealing with this and it's troubling you emotionally, what you can do that I have found helpful for myself is I journaled a lot. I wrote my feelings a lot, because even though I was married, I still often felt alone, because a woman and a man can grieve very differently. So journal, talk to a friend, talk to a family member, and in this case, call them. Text them, let them know that you need someone to talk to, and just be aware that they might not always know what to say, but their presence means that much more. You can reach out to me on my website, ashleykpittman.com. You can sign up for extra support by myself, because I offer that as well for my mom. Also, you can reach out to any of the authors on this project. They will be more than happy to support you in this journey. And then also, you can also just Google a grief support virtually, and see what you can find out there on Google, or through internet, or through on Facebook groups. But it's definitely other people that is in your shoes that can relate. And I know, unfortunately, I can too. So the support is out there. You are not by yourself. So please don't suffer alone. We are out there to be able to help you and guide you and support you and love you from afar.
Thank you so much. And another resource also is too, if you are working, don't forget to use your support system through your job, which is your employment, your EAP.
Yes.
The assistance program through your job. They do normally, most of them do offer at least 5 sessions, free sessions for these types of things, life-altering events that have happened in your life. So please please look out or reach out to those resources that are available to you. But Ashley, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your insight on pregnancy loss, and just always, every time you come, you always drop dimes for us. So thank you so much. I really appreciate you. But I'm looking forward to the project. And when does the project come out?
Yes, our release date is May 2020.
All right. Well, congratulations, sis. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, there you have it, Grief Nation listeners, and thank you for tuning in to another transformative segment on It's the Miami Night Show, Grief Talk. Today, we give thanks filled with love and gratitude for our special guest, compiler Ashley K. Pittman, and her collaboration with Meet the Authors, with Carissa Rizonia, Carita Fly, Datasha Davis, Dadriana Williams, Janelle Jones, and Shirley Elise, for expressing your very unique grief journey and sharing ways of understanding the healing process. This is your girl, Miami Night, filled with much love and light until we connect again spiritually. Bye-bye.
He's got me walking that grief walk.
Going slow mo.
He's got me talking that grief talk.
Going slow mo.
He's got me clocking it.
It's the Miami Night Show.
Hey, yeah.
Slow mo.
He's got me walking that grief walk.
Going slow mo.
He's got me talking that grief talk.
Going slow mo.
He's got me clocking it.
What up, Tribe? It's Miami Night, your master grief coach. Welcome to the Miami Night Show. You got me walking that grief walk. It's time for Grief Talk, y'all.
I talk about things you think about.
It's Miami Night, your master grief coach.